A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 207th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. As we proudly completed our 200th episode with enormous love and support from you all, we took some pause to sit, think, and prepare ourselves even better for the much awaited season 2 of this very prestigious webinar series. It was back in 2020 when we here at Notebook decided to launch a platform for the educators to connect meaningfully on discussing problems they were facing with the rising need of digital education and online learning and arrive at common solutions. Little did we know that day about this platform growing magnificently big, both vertically and horizontally. We thank you all once again for supporting us and would look forward to your gracious presence in all our upcoming episodes. We have discussed extremely vibrant topics here, like digital learning, NEP and assessment, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance and management, and even evolved topics like mental health. Today, our topic is managing your fears. As kids, all of us have faced so many fears in our lives. The fear of exams, the fear of being bullied, the fear of punishment, and the list just went on and on. As we handle kids today, how do we help them navigate this space of fear? Let's hear from the experts today. Our first speaker on this topic is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at the Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He's also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. And we here at Notebook are truly privileged to have Mr. Burrett as our senior advisor. Sir, a very good evening. Thank you so much for being here today, and over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Gagori, for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here as ever. And a very good evening to you, Achin, everybody at Notebook, and the panelists. Very good evening to our esteemed panelists and our guests. I will leave it to the panel actually to delve into the handling part of fear. But I want to talk about fear as an emotion and where it comes from. We struggle with a lot of emotions. I always say that the big four emotions are sadness, happiness, anger, and fear. And of course, there are other smaller ones that like frustration, envy, love, but they come from basically sad, mad, glad, and fear. Now, fear is an emotion, and like any emotion, it has usefulness as well as it's dangerous at times. Now, as you mentioned in your introduction, Gagori, the list of things that people are afraid of can be as long as my arms. From frogs to insects to heights to being locked into small spaces, fear of public speaking, exams, hospitals. I'm scared of doctors, jumping from, high spaces into water. But they say that the 6 causes of real fear are poverty, criticism, ill health, losing a loved one, old age, and death. These are the 6 big ones. Now, when people who, claim that they're not afraid and, this is all bravado, this is not really true. All of us experience our own type of fear. Unless, of course, you're like a man called Alex Hinault, who climbed without any assistance, absolutely vertical rock face called El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. This was made into the Oscar-winning documentary called Free Solo. When he climbed it, even I couldn't watch the movie, and the cameramen also couldn't watch it. They had to shut their eyes. But doctors, having done samples on his brain and scans on his brain, found that the fear center of his brain was missing. He did not have a fear center. In his case, there was no fear. So you have people who are generally given to more fear and people who are fearless. Now, real courage, I think, is to accept that one is afraid and still go ahead with the task, rather than say one is not fearful. And I think what makes us fearful is a real or imagined threat to our physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. There can be rational fear, which is real fear, irrational fear, which makes no sense to most people except the fearful person, and primal fear that it's programmed into our brain, like children who live in terrorist areas who've been terrorized will be scared of guns. The history of violence in Syria and ISIS. I'm scared of uniforms. I can't trust people in uniform. I'm because of stories we read about atrocities. Now, if it wasn't for fear, the human race would never have survived and our species would have been exterminated. Because it is the fear of wild animals, fire, snakes, rivers, earthquakes that has actually kept us going all these millions of years. If it wasn't for fear, we would have been eaten up by lions and bitten by snakes and been drowned by now. But fear is what has preserved the human species. Now, there's a small part of the brain, which, if you go right through the ear, it is a part of a primitive brain called the amygdala. This is a really old part of our brain. And it is this part of the brain that handles our emotions. So fear comes from here. So the moment the body notices or senses a fear, there's a threat reflex that is set into motion by the amygdala. And the autonomous nervous system, which means the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, starts to be active. Adrenaline is pumped in, cortisol is pumped in, and the body, is getting ready for the flight or fight, responses. Adrenaline is very important. It coagulates the blood, etc. Also, long after these real fears have vanished, there's no fear of lions and tigers these days because they're in zoos. The frontal cortex, which is the executive function of the brain, which is a much more recent developed part of the brain, this is what controls and tempers the amygdala. So we might be scared of tigers, but the frontal cortex tells us that the tiger is behind bars. It won't jump at us. And if you're scared of fire, the amygdala will tell us, we may get caught in a fire, but the frontal cortex will tell us that there's a fire extinguisher nearby and we could use it. So while fear is a life-saving emotion, crippling fear can get us all inactive and catatonic. And fear turns into anxieties, phobias, panic attacks, and sometimes a panic attack can mimic a heart attack. People don't understand that they have fear sometimes, but symptoms like sleeping disorders, panic attacks, moodiness, loss of appetite, lack of focus on one's books can also mean that you are disguising fear in some way that you're not aware of. Now, I think what we need to do is to change the narrative, the scripts that we carry that gets us afraid. We all carry past scripts with us, which got us afraid when we were young people. But today we need to rewrite these scripts. For example, if someone has been mugged in an underground parking lot, every sound of footsteps will evoke a fear response. But we need to look around and tell ourselves that not every footprint of a footstep we heard is going to be a dangerous person. Stage fright is another type of fear. People suffer from stage fright. And I think I can explain stage fright by saying that when we stop living in the present and we live in the future, we are going to be scared. And stage fright is just anticipating that we are already on the stage 2 or 3 days before we get on the stage. So we are going to be nervous. Now, the interesting thing is how we need to teach our children to express fear. I think a healthy expression of fear is good. It creates boundaries. When people approach us and we are too scared, we step back. And when people encroach on our psychological and physical boundaries, fear turns into healthy anger. And it's a boundary violation. So stepping on our toes, people interfering with us, being too inquisitive, evokes fear and anger. In the lives of children, we often see that trauma and fear experiences when we are very young can lead to maladaptation or wrong coping when we are adults. Now, addictions can be defined as the body's way of coping with pain. And all addiction, be it pornography, shopping, alcohol, drugs, anything, is a pain we carry from our very, very early, our early life. And the cure for addiction and fear, therefore, is the identification of the pain that we carry. Now, children often carry hidden fear in their abdomen and intestines. Thus, bloating, stomach aches, feeling vomity, constipation are symptoms of fear because young children don't know how to express fear. So the body holds it. And for example, when I was in class 6, I used to get stomach pains every Wednesday. And my mother did not draw the connection between my Hindi teacher, who was extremely cruel, and my stomach aches on only Wednesday. So there is a connection between being fearful of somebody, a fearful situation, and the somatic response to that. Now, it's very interesting that the medical profession has a symbol of this coiled serpent on a stick. And the coiled serpent on a rod actually comes from a biblical story where the snake was held up so that the people of Israel and the Exodus could actually face their fears. They were being bitten by these poisonous snakes. And so the only way to handle your fears is to actually face it. And that's why, as an educator, I think children need to be taken into the wild, into the wilderness, to climb mountains and cross rivers, to live in tents, take on challenges, be hungry, cook yourself, go into whitewater rafting. I think that is the way I would inculcate a facing of one fear. And the opposite of that would be helicopter parents who shield their children from every little difficulty, who want to fix every problem, whose parents do everything for them. I think so. All of us need to identify our fears. We need to be aware of what our fears are and where they come from, and rationalize it. And I think the way I would, as a teacher, help children to handle fear would be to take time out to reflect and understand what is causing the fear. To breathe. I think breathing and good pranic breathing is a really good antidote for fear. We also need to look at the evidence, the past evidence. We may be scared of a certain incident, but evidence shows, experience shows that things worked out well. It was not as scary as we need to talk about it. And in doing so, we need mentors. We need to have people who we can speak our fears to. A lot of fears are interiorized because we can't express it. Also, we don't need to be perfect. This whole idea of perfection causes a lot of anxiety and fears in children. And with that, Gauri, I think I have done my opening session. I look very much forward to the discussion by the panelists and Achin's always very brilliant, speak. Thank you so much, Gauri. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Wonderful deliberations. A lot of insightful stories, and I would like to move on to Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya next. Our next speaker on this topic is Mr. Bhattacharyya, CEO and founder at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland, and a member of CIMA UP. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and a passionate traveler, Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He's a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He's also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand services. Achin, a very good evening, and over to you, please.
Good evening, everyone. Gauri, am I audible?
Absolutely.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a very sensitive yet perpetually important topic. Our nervous system are designed to alert us about any danger and warn us when things are not safe. So naturally, we take action. But threats are everywhere. And if we aren't careful, the part of our brain that tells us that we are in danger can actually take over. Now, fortunately, there are ways to overcome fearful thoughts that persist long after the initial danger has passed. But at times we are left with a lot of questions. For instance, what do I say to someone who suffered a tragedy? How do I help someone with survivor's guilt? For us adults, one of the ways to manage anxiety and fear is to recognize fearful thoughts in a non-judgmental way. But how about teaching our children to overcome their fears and dare to dream big? We'd all agree that in order to progress in any walk of life, it's important to be willing to take risks, maybe calculated risks, but which at times seriously challenge us and force us to get out of our comfort zone. However, when we are children, I feel we do this all the time. Now, if you look at children, for instance, something as simple as learning how to walk or talk or riding a bike, at times we see them going from someone who in first week doesn't know how to ride a bike, in second or third week, really trying for it with some success, and maybe in fourth week or fifth week, being very comfortable with it. And the fact is that when we get older, we rarely do this. And it's true that for many of us, we sort of lock down the sense of who we are and don't stretch anymore. However, when you look at things from the perspective of children, few simple things which I believe are important is avoiding the avoidance. The only way to deal with fear is to face it. Avoiding our fears only prevents us from moving forward, makes us more anxious. But it's really important to teach children to also be gentle with themselves and do what they feel is safe for them. And if they get more panicky, it's really important for them to take a break and find something, some activity which is more pleasant, more comforting. And if it feels safe later, it's really important to come back and explore it again. However, if there is something which is chronic, be it fear, be it anxiety, and they find it difficult to tackle things on their own, naturally, support from parents, educators, even professionals can be invaluable in helping them through various strategies. Now, especially for those who have experienced any kind of trauma, it's really important to create a safe environment where they can face their fear and reconstruct their memories. Also, if it's milder, be it fear of anxiety, things like mindfulness, meditation really help. The way I look at it, every time our fear is invited up, every time we face it, we recognize it and smile at it, and it will lose some of its strength. The other important aspect is promoting positivity, learning to create positive emotions. Now, fear naturally causes us to notice and remember negative events, which reinforce our sense that the world is a scary place. We can work to change by, and it's really important to change this perception by teaching our children to notice what is positive around them. The joy we feel when we see someone whom we love, our loved one, the pleasure of a sunny day or lush green surroundings during monsoon months, the beauty of nature, the fun of an outdoor event, a picnic with friends or family, finding humor in every situation, learning to laugh at themselves. Positivity broadens our perspective and helps us literally have a more wider view. And naturally, it lead to offering us more options. And the more we practice positivity, the more it comes back to us. We build on it like stumbling, like building blocks, creating resilience, which will allow us to function even during difficult times. The other important, I was just going through a study, very important study. It's an 80-year-old study that has been conducted across generations. And it has been found out that individual who return to healthy behavior after facing any kind of trauma, who are able to face that trauma, reconstruct those events, face it, and come back to healthy behavior, are the ones who are able to find meaning in the traumatic experience and reestablish a sense of security about the world, and not only for themselves, but for those around them. So finding meaning, very important. Other important aspect, of course, is reaching out, teaching our children to reach out, to seek support, not to suffer in silence, to speak up. Because at times fear can cause us to feel disconnected from others. And there will be many reasons for this. Of course, friends and family can help us make a more realistic assessment of the threat. We might actually be making a mountain out of a molehill. With the support of others, we feel more confident that we can deal with the issues. Of course, the other aspect is having a loved one who can calm us, having someone who can support us near us, of course, reduces the fight or the flight response. The other aspect, I think, which is very, very important is outdoor activity. Burrett spoke briefly about it, and I completely believe in it. Something as simple as going for a nature walk. We all know that being in nature reduces fear and anxiety, increases pleasant feelings. Looking at something like natural beauty, which is calm, beautiful, something happy, because nature also represents hope, liveliness, and being connected to nature makes us feel much better emotionally. Now, these are a few thoughts that I wanted to share. But this particular topic, which is a very interesting topic, I'm sure also calls for some real life situations and how they have been handled. We have a panel of very highly experienced educators with decades of experience today in the panel. And I really look forward to hear from them, their thoughts on this very important topic. I thank all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. Over to you, Gauri.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Achin, for those wonderful, wonderful deliberations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we mentioned, we do have a wonderful panel lined up for you today. But before we start with the panel discussion, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an edtech platform that creates short videos pertaining to the school curriculum, which means that every topic from every subject of the school syllabus has been converted into a series of short videos that can be used in two different cases. One is when you as a teacher are starting out a topic in your classroom, you can play any of these videos as a method of visually introducing the topic to your students. These videos are just 6 to 10 minutes in duration and take up very little of your class time while offering the right kind of material to students to generate curiosity and excitement. The second is when the student is studying at home months later. They have access to the same videos on their personal devices, be it a laptop or a smartphone. They can watch the videos over and over again until they get a very clear understanding of the topic that you had taught. What I'm going to do now is play you a mashup of notebook videos so that you know what they exactly look like.
During ancient times, early men used to eat food raw. With the sudden discovery of fire, humans learnt the art of cooking food. Even after the discovery of fire, we did not have a steady supply of food. We led a nomadic life and were mostly hunters and gatherers. Hello and welcome to a brand new video lesson from Notebook.
These lines show how a young and silly cricket wasted his time singing songs throughout the seasons of summer and spring. With the onset of winter, the grounds were covered with snow. The hungry and desperate cricket could not find any food anywhere for sustenance.
A polynomial of degree 0 is called a constant polynomial. A polynomial of degree 1 is a linear polynomial. Likewise, a polynomial of degree 2 is called the quadratic polynomial. And very simply, a polynomial of degree 3 is called a cubic polynomial.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a small part of some of our videos as you just now saw. We have today connected with over 3,500 schools and have had millions of students and teachers benefit from our videos. If you head over to our website, www.notebook.school, you will find out such videos at your disposal. If you want Notebook in your school, please get in touch with our sales team at sales@notebook.school. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to wonderful panelists that we have with us today. We have with us today Dr. Moupali Mittra, ma'am, Principal, MD Public School, Rohtak, Haryana. Ma'am holds MSc, BA, PhD, MBA in Finance. Ma'am has been working as a Center Superintendent and an examiner and observant for CBSE Board, Certified City Coordinator for all the competitive examinations conducted through MGA, served as Center Superintendent for CBSE and ICC schools. She has served as Chief Nodal Supervisor for Evaluation in CBSE and even has been an observer for JEE and UGC NET. Her journey started as a CGT science teacher. Thereafter, she has worked in various prestigious positions, including Principal at Gulmohar Public School, Headmistress at State Anandram Jaipuriya School, Principal at the Millennium School, Sitapur Road, Lucknow, the Director Principal, CPS Fatehpur for CPS Group of Schools, Principal of GD Goenka International School, Surat. Ma'am, a very, very good evening and welcome back to the panel.
Very good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, very good evening to all the panelists. And
next we have with us Dr. Geeta Shukla, ma'am, teacher trainer, child development specialist and mindful parenting coach, career counselor. Ma'am holds a B.Ed and a PhD in chemistry. She has been working as an educator for 30 years in various schools like the India School, Gwalior, Unison School, Dehradun, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, Uttar Kashi, and Allahabad. She has worked as an independent workshop facilitator and as a CBSE resource person, conducted over 100 workshops with teachers on various topics, and also a master trainer for school health and wellness. Ma'am, a very good evening and welcome back to the panel once again. We also have with us today Dr. Rupmala Singh, Chairman, Hayde Heritage Academy, Uttarakhand. Ma'am is an educationalist with a solid commitment to social and academic growth and development of students. She currently owns and runs this wonderful child-friendly boarding school in Uttarakhand, aiming at developing the child's physical, emotional, and mental personality, manifesting his unique self. She has worked with several media organizations like ABP Group, Hindustan Times, and India Today Group, and loves to write and is featured regularly in leading dailies and magazines. In her long career span, she has donned many caps of a journalist, a brand marketing professional, a youth marketer, an entrepreneur, a teacher, self-taught painter, a studio potter. She is a fitness enthusiast, loves to read, write, paint, cook, and preserve. Ma'am, a very good evening and a warm welcome from the House of Notebook. We also have with us today Shilpa Jejurkar, ma'am, Principal, MIT Vishwashanti Gurukul School, Maharashtra. Ma'am holds a M.Ed, PhD, MPhil, and a postgraduate diploma in education, leadership, and management from IIT UK. With a rich experience of 25 years in the field of education, ma'am has played pivotal roles in schools like Amber International School and Junior College, New Horizons Public School, and so on. She's a recipient of an array of awards, including Community Icon Award by PWD Maharashtra, IUEFC Shakti Samman Award for Excellence in Education. A staunch propagator of inclusive education, she has opened the doors to many children who are differently able and striving to bring them to the mainstream education. Ma'am, a very good evening and welcome to the panel. I would like to thank all my panelists for being here today and want to start with Shilpa Jejurkar, ma'am, with my first question. Ma'am, what are the kinds of fears do we generally see in children? What are the causes of acceleration of these fears as for you?
Yeah. A very good evening to all the esteemed panelists here, and thank you, Gregory, for this wonderful question. Since heading schools for so many years, I've come across students who are facing lots of issues nowadays. So, am I audible? Okay, fine. So, the most commonest fear nowadays is the fear of social media, because we have seen children frequently accessing social media, and they are glued to the screen. Every now and then they want to check their Instagram account, they want to check their Facebook account, and want to see whether I am not lagging behind in posting something. My friend has posted 2 reels, so I have to post maybe 1 or 2 more reels than my friend. Apart from that, yes, they earlier had a fear of failure, because since they have friends across, they used to, there was a competition. If my friend is going for engineering, I will also go for engineering, without even thinking whether he himself or she herself is capable of studying that particular stream or not. So that is one where we found there is a lot of herd mentality. Even the parents had a mental block here, and the fear of lagging behind or fear of falling behind in the entire rat race is seen along with the students. It is with the parents as well. Apart from that, yes, as I told you about social situations, they are still under the pressure that somewhere I may not be able to cope up with the social pressure, my peer pressure. If one of my friend has got this particular brand, even I need that particular brand, of things like shoes, or maybe, this is also kind of a fear, because they feel if I if I have to be in the mainstream, I have also to do the same thing which my friends or other peers are doing. So that is also a type of a fear. Secondly, they also have a fear of future, because as you know, the entire everything is volatile nowadays. Unlike what we certainly had few paths which are fixed for us, but nowadays it is so flexible. They don't want to lose out of the competition. They are constantly thinking about what should I go for, whether I should go for IT, or whether I should go for medical, or whether there is any other avenues which I can check for. So this fear is constantly there in the mind, and where I saw there is a complete divide between the parents and the children. The parents come up with the mentality that yes, I want to make my child a doctor or an engineer, whereas the child wants to become something else. So then again, there is a fear of choosing the major and the minor. So if a child wants to take maybe artificial intelligence as a major and music as a minor, the parent is still not allowing the child to, because the Indian parent thinks music, dance, performing arts is of no use. So they should not go for such this type of vocational skill-based education. They should in fact concentrate only on the main core, like engineering and medical only. Apart from that, yes, fear of being alone. That is the most important fear which I feel every child is facing nowadays. That I may not get my friends, or maybe because parents are not talking to them nowadays. Both the parents are working in metropolitan cities like us. Parents don't have time for the children. So then somewhere they are feeling alone. Most of them are the single child of the parents. They don't have anyone at home to talk to. So somewhere the fear of falling behind, being alone. If I am not able to cope up with my friends, if my friend is telling me to smoke, I have to smoke. Otherwise, I'll be left alone. So all such things are happening nowadays, and then they're resorting to substance abuse because friends are doing it. So I don't want to I should be with my friends. So I'm also smoking. I'm going towards alcoholism and all. So this all things are faced by the students, especially in metropolitan cities like us. So for this, what we have done is we are constantly counseling them. We identify such soft students with soft emotional issues. We talk to them always. Because parents, as you all know, parents don't have time for the kids, but we still call them in the school. We talk to them that you have to give time to your child. Secondly, teachers are very good in identification of all such type of issues. So they see to it that if there is any child who is having some different type of a behavior, we identify such children, we counsel them, we talk to them. My doors are always open for the children. They can come and talk to me, anything, whatever they feel like. So because what is missing is talking. They are not able to speak. They are not able to vent out their emotions. And then those emotions are leading to all such psychosomatic disorders. So I have children who have constantly they're having stomach pain, and that is all because of fear, nothing else. So when we ask for some doctor's report, there is nothing. Doctor says no, the child is fit and fine, healthy, but then it is all because of the fear that the child is facing all such issues. They are having appendix problem, appendicitis, they are having stomach issues, sometimes headache, migraine, because they're not sleeping at night. They keep watching Instagram or other social other accounts, and then they keep themselves busy because they want to be in touch with the friends. My friend has put something, so even I have to immediately reply. So the method what we are using right now is calling them, talking to them. We are open for a discussion. We tell them to speak out everything, whatever is there in their heart, just speak out. Talk to me. So that is what is the attitude which we have right now. They have to just talk. We have also called the parents. We have made, there are parents who are not talking to child from so many years. Now they have started talking. So they sit together. We tell them, you sit here and talk in front of us. And then lots of differences. The gap was reduced between the child and the parent. So I think this initiative we all can start as a head of schools, talk to the children. I have also have a session called Principal Ki Pathshala, where children are free to talk to me. Anything, whatever they feel like, they talk to me. So during the last 30 minutes of the day, reflection session, they talk to me. So I make it a point that I go to every class and I talk to the children. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for those wonderful, wonderful deliberations. Would next come to Moupali Mittra, ma'am. Ma'am, my question to you would be, what role do parents and teachers play in managing the fears of kids, and how do we overcome them? And how do you execute actually?
Yeah, it's a very common line that a fear is there, although it seems to be very small, but it has a great impact in the entire career and life of a child. Because a small little hitch or the knot that is created at a very early age, it do has its impact over the entire life. So what is important is we'll have to help the child manage their fears by letting them know that you try to understand, you are scared, why they are scared. Why they are creating, they need to create a plan together. The parents, the teachers, they need to create a plan so that the child undergoes the process to overcome the stress. Because stress for anything, it can be darkness also, it can be fear of failure also, it can be at time I have seen grown-up children also fear lizards, cockroaches. They are very small little thing, but the fear in the mind is deep rooted. That needs to be, I mean, somewhere taken out from the mind, that what can be the consequences and how to overcome, because such kind of fear at time leads to us various accidents also. So we will have to create the awareness by creating a plan to be together with them, to become brave enough to lead the life with a dignity, because fear doesn't has a definition. It can all of a sudden crop up, and then the child starts panicking. By the time a parent and a teacher understand, it becomes sometimes little late also to overcome it. So we will have to train our children from the very beginning. At a juvenile stage, they need to be together. Now as a parent, we have a very huge role. As a teachers, we are still having a more grave duties to offer, because children follow their teachers. At school, we need to be very, very clear that how we are dealing with a child. We need to counsel our parents also if we come across. So offering support while giving kids a chance to manage fear of their own, it will help them to lessen their fear over time. It will take time, but we can definitely help them. There can be various ways. I would like to, for parents, I would like to emphasize on, as we keep doing, while we counsel children, while we counsel parents also, because small little thing can change their life. It's just a spark that needs to be ignited at this initial age. We need to give them a confidence that we are there for you. This is something is very huge line, that if they feel that all right, my teachers are there, my parents are there, they automatically gain that confidence. And very important line goes along with talk it out. The child must have a lasting effect in life, their working strategies, their goals, excelling in their life, or maybe success or failure. Everything has got a link with each other. So we need to talk it out is a topic that we often speak during our motivational session also with our children. We need to empathize with our children, because if a child is passing through a critical situation, the child needs somebody to be with them. We need to empathize, but at the same time, we need to encourage self-regulation, where the child self-regulation is basically the ability to deal with their emotion and thought in a healthy way. because they need to understand, they need to identify. It is very important how the child take it up. So when we identify certain thing, we recommend parents also not to overreact. A child is panicking. It is a very obvious fact. But then we need to understand that we should not be overreacting to it. And a very good example can be use of distraction. Sometimes small little thing, when there is a distraction, child tend to get distracted also very easily. So it can be the distraction methodology where the child gets into the some positive approach, something different from it, linked to it, and they forget about the basics of the fear and they can overcome with the success level. We also need to boost the realistic thinking. What they are thinking, are they deep rooted? What is the reality of it? That realistic thinking need to be implanted in their mind. And at the same time, we need to be patient enough, because if we get impatient, the child cannot be nurtured positively. At time we see that parents also panics, the child also panics. So these are the situations where the patience, your creativity, your understanding, your empathizing character is going to lead a child towards overcoming the situation. We also need to have a thought that we should not avoid the activities with a child. Sometimes parents say we are busy. Sometimes teachers said, all right, go back, I'll listen to you later on, because teacher also had a lot of pressure. So these are the situations where we will have to understand that we cannot avoid activities. Doing activity with a child to make the child comfortable is also very important, and we should always stay involved. When we are working for any kind of fear in the mind of a child, we'll have to remember that we need to stay involved, because it has certain components which needs to be dealt with. The components means it should not be impractical approach. It has to be very, very practical approach where the child can connect themselves with the everyday working. Until and unless a child connect, then there cannot be the solution to it. So when the child connect, they also understand in a realistic way. At the same time, we should understand that the bits of the information or bits of the pieces of those fear that is getting scattered, they are manageable by us only. When we are removing the fear from the mind through various activity, various sort, because it doesn't have a definition. So when the teacher work or the principal work or the parent work, then these all bits should be manageable enough. Until and unless we are able to manage our own bits that we are shedding off from their mind, it will create another havoc in the mind of the child. So it is also very important to manage them. While boosting the realistic thinking, we need to understand that it is all, it should not be over reassured. While reassuring them, it should not be over reassured, because again it will become impractical and it will not engage the actual expression in the mind of the child. Actual expression, when the child understand to vent it off, when the child can talk it over, then the child will be able to express in a positive way and can throw trust on the teacher or the parent. That trust factor, where I will never fail, I will never have any kind of anxiety, because parents are there for us and the teacher is there for us. The school and the parent, both of them are going to make it a realistic world for the child, because that's the better way we can handle. Both of us need to move hand in hand. And if we are helping them away, when we are validating and moving, helping them to move on in their path, we need to validate and help them to move on, so that once they come across with a realistic fear, they know how to handle their own stress. Stress management doesn't have a definition. Stress is for what? For the studies or for something else? It doesn't have a definition. It starts cropping from one to another. So when they jump into one to another, they also do not know where we are jumping. So that realistic way to offer encouragement, because all is about creating positivity in the mind of a child, creating positivity in their working strategies, and the confidence that needs to be built and instilled in their mind. So while creating these all confidences, if we've come across with certain stage, I always recommend that we should not hesitate from professional advice also. At time it is required, but most of the time parent and teacher, if they move hand in hand, they are able to remove all the stress from the mind of the child. It's not impossible. We all deal with all these situations we have come across, but what is exactly in the mind, that identification is required. And I recommend strongly one line, that do not use fear as a tool. Just to reduce one thing, never use a fear as a tool, because a child will gather fear for something else in their life, which maybe they are able to remove or may not be able for the entire life. So never use a fear as a tool, because that is again a half the way of the knowledge. We may not be able to help the child in a correct way. I mean, these are the various ways through which we can remove the stress, we can help our children so that they can come across to the structure where they are able to manage. It is a learning process, not a one-day process. It is a continuous process where every day they have one point. But when they know who is going to support us, when they know where we are going to get the correct answer by analyzing it, they'll definitely depend. And trust me, it will be a very hardcore effort, but for a short span of time, if we invest ourselves, we can have a better tomorrow for those children.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Wonderful deliberations. Moving on to Dr. Rupmala Singh, ma'am, for your inputs. Ma'am, what do you think are the top ways which a student can self-practice to overcome fears in their growing up years?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gagari. My throat is still not healed, so I will be croaking a lot
No worries, ma'am.
I've been postponing being a part of a webinar for a very long time just because of my throat. I have a serious problem, I think. But nevertheless, wonderful, beautiful listening to Dr. Shilpa. Loved her points about fear of lagging behind and fear of being alone. Loved hearing Dr. Moupali Mittra talking about how you can involve activities to make the children lose the fear in their lives. Today, what I want to speak of is a little different, because what I am not from education background completely. I came into education with the opening of this school. I have been a journalist and a marketing professional, so I look at children a little differently. And what I am seeing right now is that more than being just afraid, the children are avoiding to feel that they're afraid. They are in denial. Most of them are in a major sense of denial. I am talking about primarily children in higher classes, in class 11th and 12th. You know, we always feel that there are the three major fears in a child's life of that age, adolescence. That is fear of belonging. They want to belong to a group. They want to look a particular type. They want to have a body type that is accepted worldwide. And the other fear is fear of failure. And the third is fear of future. But in all of them, I feel that at any point of time, a child is in denial. He is afraid of the future, but he would rather not talk about it. He would say, have you thought about your future? What do you want to do? Ma'am, not as yet. At this moment, I'm concentrating on my board exam. So the fear is there. Otherwise, why would the child be talking about the board exams? So they have the fear, but unfortunately, the world is much tougher for these children than it was for us. This world, we never had to accept a third gender when we were growing up. These children have to accept concepts like a third gender and various other very complicated information that they're getting, and they're entering, and they have to accept it. There are children who are talking about various very major issues in life, like a child from a broken home is even talking to me about not wanting to ever get married. The fear of relationship is very big in them. They want to have the perfect relationship. They want to have a rainbow all around them. And in the process, they're only trying to prove to themselves that they are perfect. There are certain parameters that the society has given to them. You are expected to look like this. So many kids are extremely worried about their looks. because it is so influenced by a highly biased, West-influenced social parameters of look, which is veering on fairness, which is veering on an hourglass figure or muscles for a boy. So these children are only trying to emulate what is expected socially for them to look good. They feel that their friends will not accept them the way they are unless they try to be like them. And like I think Dr. Shilpa said, this leads to negative behavior. This leads to want to belong. So my friend is smoking. If I don't smoke, I don't belong. So they get into this mode of doing negative things just because they are trying to circumvent the fear which they do not recognize. So this is a little worrisome for us because these children are worried about belonging. They feel that they are not liked by their peers. It is a social phobia. So they are trying to find a right identity for themselves. They want to be viewed by their peers in a particular manner. So all the time they are trying to be somebody maybe whom they are not. And many a time this leads to risky behavior. Simple thing like not attending a class or bunking a class is actually coming from the fear of the subject. Now, does the child accept it that the child is afraid of maths? So the child is bunking his maths class and running to his music class? No, the child is bunking because he's afraid of maths, but he doesn't want to accept it. So there comes his behavior that nothing is going to happen to me. I can get away with it. And then if I do get away with it, I become a hero. My friends, oh my God, look at him. He's managed to bunk class, not understanding this child is doing it because he's afraid of facing his maths teacher with his incompetence of doing maths in that class. And maybe coming from what Dr. Moupali Mittra said, that the parental pressure is making him take maths, which he is not fit to do. But he doesn't realize. So every time you ask him, child, how are you doing in maths? Ma'am, it's my favorite subject. What is he doing? Denying. Denying his fear of the subject. And he's constantly telling me it's his favorite subject. How do you deal with this fear? The child doesn't recognize the fear. I recognize the fear. You recognize the fear. Unless the child recognizes the fear, how will you teach him to cope with it? You can't force coping on a person who doesn't even see the problem. So that is one of my issues that, and another thing that I wanted to tell, mine is the boarding school. I'm talking about very practical problems of fear. Now these children have got this, I think all children in the world now have this very odd waking up hours and sleeping hours. They love to work at night. They love to do late night working. Their mind is most active after 11 o'clock at night. They go to sleep at 3 o'clock. They wake up at 7 o'clock. They come to school. First period in the classroom, the teacher is dealing with multiple yawning faces. So what kind of fear is this? The fear of a regular life. They don't accept our early to bed, early to rise dictum. They feel we are foolish to tell them this because the world keeps awake at night is what they tell me. Ma'am, the world keeps awake at night. So therefore they feel they are justified in yawning in class. They are not expected to come. This is also a worry. This is also coming from the fear of doing what is normal. They have to be different. Every teenage child wants to be different. They want to do different, feel different, talk different, behave different. It's coming from the fear of not finding their identity. Now, these are, we understand, they are in complete denial of their worries. They're in complete denial of the worry of failure. I understand. We used to feel that the worry of failure is a lot. Many of the kids are completely complacent about it. Ma'am, board exam is, they tell me, and they're so right. They said Indian board exam is nothing but learning, rote memory, writing, presence of mind at the 3 hours. If at the 3 hours I'm not well, then ma'am, my result goes bad, and that is what I live with throughout my life. Is it fair? Now, their fear is not the exam. Their fear is the system. Why is the system making us do something that is not logical? Why am I being judged for 3 hours on a piece of paper when my knowledge is far more than this 3 hours? What answer do we have? How do we help them to cope with this? So there are, of course, like I completely agree with Dr. Shilpa, that talking is the best. And that's the only weapon we have. You have to talk them out of their notions, and you have to tell them, child, I understand you have a lot of questions for the education system. You and me can change it only if we are part of it. Give your board exam, do well, and then question it. If you give your board exam and don't do well, then the world will question you. So that is the only way we can talk to them. Tell them that normalize the situation around you till you have the power to change the world. You want to change the education system, become the education secretary. For that, you have to study. For that, you have to move on and become an IS officer, become an education secretary, enable yourself, change the system. I'm with you. So coping them, supporting them with their fears, supporting with them with the ideas, playing along them, becoming a teenager, understanding their problem, standing in their shoes is far more important than at this moment telling them what is correct according to us. So I feel coping fear is there, but they're not afraid of things that we used to be afraid of. They're not afraid of darkness. They're not afraid of lightning. They're not afraid of insects. Children are catching snakes in my Uttarakhand school and bringing them to the bio lab and saying, ma'am, please put formaldehyde on it. So they are one brave set of kids, and their fears are not our fear. They're not scared of a nuclear war. They're not fear of zombies. They're watching zombie films all the time. So fear of ghosts are not there with them. So but for us, we have to get into their boots to understand their fears. Their fear is, one child has even told me, ma'am, I love cross-dressing. I love wearing lipstick. It's a boy. But I'm a boy, ma'am. Now, what is his fear? His fear is a complete unknown world outside. He's questioning himself. The child is doing fabulously in NIFT now. He is a designer, first year. But questions like that, we have to know. I think we need to cope with the new generation and their questions and their fears. And then we have to be equipped enough to take care of them. And I think that's it for me. Let them come up, tell you their fears, and try to manage them.
Wonderful deliberations, ma'am. Please take care of your throat. I hope it gets
My
better.
throat is gone. And now with the rains in Uttarakhand, it's flooding. Today is again another red alert. 3 days schools closed. It's quite a scene.
Yes, ma'am. Please do take care of your throat.
Thank
Moving
you.
on to my next panelist, Dr. Geeta Shukla, ma'am. Ma'am, your inputs on the topic, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Gaguri. And I'm really feeling so enlightened by all the discussions here. Dr. Rupmala ma'am, Shilpa ma'am, and Moupali ma'am. You people have given such an insight to this topic of fear. And Philip sir and another sir also was here. He also, both of them have given such a wonderful insight to the topic. Philip sir, I really liked the way you have dealt with the biological aspect of the fear. So when I was going through this topic, I started from initial stages, like what the kids feel. So my start from that, I have started. And when I was listening to all your deliberations here, I found that what I was thinking about the dealing fear for the smaller children, that applies to the younger and the adolescents also. And also, I felt that we all feel afraid at certain stages of our life, or certain in day-to-day certain things we might be feeling fear. But yes, somehow we just manage to regulate our emotions, and we are coming up with the strategies to control our fears. So for example, I think as adult teachers, all of us have changed various schools, and when we are shifting to some another school, the first few initial days create a bit of fear in our minds also, and entering to the +2 level class for the very first day is always challenging for us. So the way if we teach our children from the very young age how to manage their fears, though their fears are quite different, I think they will be able to handle their fears at the later stages. As Rupmala ma'am, you have very rightly pointed out that the fear in the adolescent is very much different now, the kind of fears which we used to feel in our age, because there was no kind of information. The explosion is there, and children have learned so many things. They are exposed to so many things which they are not finding the right people to ask about them, and half-cooked informations they are getting. So that is creating another kind of problem. And I feel that as adult, we are also not equipped to handle those questions. We also get kind of shied, or you can say we also avoid answering those questions. So as educators, I feel we as a teacher, educator, we also avoid the questions, and the parents are also avoiding the answering the questions. So there is a lot of confusion, and they whatever answers they are getting from the similar age group adolescent, whose mind we know is not that much equipped to handle all the emotions plus questions and plus finding the correct solutions. So what I have thought of few points which I think I'm going to discuss with you all, and that I'm sure will be applied to all age groups up to adult world. This will be applicable. So first is that we need to take fear seriously. We cannot say, because if I am afraid and I say I am feeling fear of this, maybe just fear of going to the airport, my flight will be delayed. I may miss my flight. I may miss my train. As an adult, I may be feeling this. For you, this may not be the fear, but for me, this is a fear. And for me, this is a fear which I need to manage. So for me, managing the fear will be, okay, I'll be at least 2 hours earlier to the airport, 1 hour earlier to the station, right? For other person, that might be a kind of making fun. So much of time, why you are rushing so early, right? So we need to take fear of other person very seriously, because that is somewhere impacting their day-to-day life also, and the moment in which they are. So we need to take that fear seriously. And in terms of students, if I say, so specifically, I will mention that if our children are feeling afraid of a certain people, certain persons, then we should consider it as a red flag. And immediately we need to be going deeper into this, because this is one thing from where the abuse starts. And abuse can be physical abuse, it can be sexual abuse, all kind of abuses starts. And initially the first response, because we all have a kind of sixth sense which tells us that something is wrong, we are afraid. So fear is the response of that feeling. But expressing that fear, and if nobody is taking that seriously, there can be a problem. So take fear, if expressed by anyone, take it seriously. And then comes, when we are talking about the children or adult, we need to talk to them about all kind of fears which they might be having. It may not be possible to do it in one sitting. It can be a regular kind of thing, sometimes formally, sometimes informally. We will have to talk with our children regarding all the fears which they might be feeling. And from time to time, what the fear about certain things might be changing. Some initially they might be feeling afraid of something, and later on they may not be. So talking about the fear at the regular interval in their life stages, different life stages, is very much important. Now, once we have discussed what kind of fears they have, we need to validate that also. We can't say that, oh, ye bhi koi darne ki baat hai. You should not be afraid of afraid of these things. What a cockroach can do and what is a lizard? Why are you afraid? Lizard can't even jump and can't come even onto you. But imagine if at a certain place you open a door and suddenly a lizard falls on you. It is a fear and it is very difficult to handle that also. So whatever kind of fear they are saying, validate it, accept it. But don't, what I feel is not to talk too much about that fear at that particular moment, because that kind of gives an emphasis that, okay, this is to be afraid and it's perfectly all right, fear. And when we talk too much about that fear, then it is again kind of reinforced in the mind that this is the thing we have to be, I am afraid of. So this validate it, accept it, validate it, but not put a lot of discussion on that at every particular time. Then comes when we have decided that these are the areas or for these things I am afraid of, how I will be dealing those fears, then a plan has to be made. So for example, it is for a very small student who is coming to the school for the first time or the transferred from some another school. So for them, the fear will be different. For very younger student, the fear will be missing their parents. They feel very scared that while they are not seeing their parents, something bad will happen to their parent. So, and they will get the bad news. Might be some of the students must have faced certain situations where this has happened, that some person is missing and they get the very bad news, and that has kind of reinforced in his memory that this is the thing which has happened. So for such things, we need to make a concrete plan for that and slowly in a planned manner phase out that fear. So initially for the small children, this can be that, okay, the parents can be even asked to be present in the classroom. Slowly they can be asked to sit inside a school gate, but not near the class. And in sometimes just take the child to, okay, your parents are sitting there. So that gives a kind of confidence to the child. Okay, fine. And slowly phase out. Slowly ask them to remain outside the gate for an hour. And when children get adjusted to this and they are confident, another fear younger children feel, especially younger ones, they feel when the parents come to school to pick them up and then they are late. So even if they are late for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, they come out of the gate, and if the parent is not there, it is kind of a panicky situation for them. So these things can be done with a planned phasing out of the fear and accepting it. Then comes for parents and for teachers. Sometimes if child says that I am afraid of maths exam, so as a result, what happened? Teacher becomes even more afraid of the maths paper, especially in the board exams. You might have observed that board classes teaching teachers, they undergo so much of stress. They are so afraid. And a day before their own paper, they are doing a lot more work than even the individual students are doing, because they are afraid what will happen, what kind of paper will be there, whether my children will be able to do it or not. So adults, if they start jumping into the fear and helping everything out, then the children will not learn to manage the fear. So for example, like I'm sure Rupmala ma'am, you must be facing this situation, because being a residential school, just before the board exam or any exam, there are certain children who will just come, I have not read anything. I am able to only complete 50% of the syllabus. And at that time, as an adult, as a teacher, as a principal, as a counselor, what we have to do? Okay, fair enough. You have read the 50%. That is going to make you clear the exam. Now don't jump for another 50% which you have not touched throughout the year. That is not going to make any positive impact on your result at this stage. So we as a parent and as an adult, as a teacher, we should help the students to control their fear, to manage it, not start managing everything on their part. Another thing is that children may be feeling fear. So for example, ma'am has mentioned like fear of being on social media, and then how many likes my photograph is having, that kind of thing. I should also make the reels. So if our child, and we generally come to know that this particular child is that kind of person who is paying probably more attention on his or her own looks, who is very much conscious about that. So if we are talking to that, and somewhere we find that child is now understanding and being comfortable in whatever and however they are, we need to appreciate that. Encouragement and appreciation and praise for the small efforts which they are making can help them in dealing with these fears. And as earlier Philip sir has also mentioned, and I think another people, I'm exactly not remembering who, but pushing our children slowly towards physical activity is very much important. The simple controlled breath exercises, they are very much important. Some activities, regular activities of yoga, they help in controlling the emotions. They make people to calm down a lot. And this helps a lot. Tremendous changes you can observe in students when they are just doing the breath exercises. So, for example, just before the exams and before any situation, like going for a debate and facing the audience, for a storytelling competition, going on the stage and telling the story. Before that, if we just train and the child is panicking, we just tell them, okay, calm down, deep breath, breathe in, breathe out, control breath for few seconds. Even few control breaths can make impact. And this is one fact, that whatever you are doing, however you are stressed, however you are sad, if you start walking a little bit, fast walking or running, you will come back to your steps only. You won't, because you can't think. And if you're thinking something else, you may stumble and you may fall down. So your focus will be on your steps and on the road or wherever you are walking. And that can deviate your mind, focus your mind towards a different kind of activity, which again releases the kind of hormones which makes you calm down. So physical exercise, regular exercise, breathing exercise, yoga practices, I think should be there in the school curriculum. They should be, and daily it should happen. So a few days back, I was in a show like this where we were discussing Kiran Bedi ma'am's regime. And it was asked, a question was asked, ma'am, what would you like to change in the education system? And she said, I still feel why I was not taught the yoga exercises in my school for regularly. We were not discussing that, though that is one skill which is making me healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, in every way. But our schooling system is missing that. So I think as an educator, as in charge of our school principals and owner principals, we can inculcate this habit in our students, and this is going to really help them. So again, we are talking about the fears which we can control, but there are certain situations when these fears are impacting life really badly. So we should not be hesitant of taking expert advice. So with this, I'm just now going to sum up all major points in 2 minutes, and then we'll be ending my discussion with you. So first, don't pretend that you are not afraid. Adults are also afraid. We need not pretend in front of students and children that we are not afraid. We are just the kind of cool person in their terms. But no, we are also afraid. Tell them, and we are also afraid, and we try to manage our fears. We can share with the things also for which we feel afraid. So that makes children that fear is a normal thing. and it can be controlled. And these two aspects make them very comfortable. Do deal with your own fears. And if you are afraid of height and you are taking your children to the trekking and you panic, your children will panic more. So better deal with your fears. Then do not belittle your child for his or her fear. Because the person who feels fear, that thing, that object is important for that person. So we should not belittle their fears. To emphasize on the child's strength. Even if they are feeling afraid, we can always emphasize on the strengths which they have. Do not create a distance between the child and you, because your child is feeling fear, children are afraid, and we have to always deal with their fears. We also, as a human being, can get in stress. So, but still, we being adult, we should not avoid our children. We should not rush to reassure them every time they are feeling fear. Sometimes we can observe the things from a little bit distance, be there, be supportive to them, but don't handle each and everything for them. And don't avoid people, places, things that make our children fearful. Because if we start avoiding those things, children will learn to avoid all the situations which can give them a fear, them a kind of fear. Fear is very good also, because if we are not afraid, we will be doing so many things which can harm us badly. So take the children to those places. So for example, a snake is there, tiger is there, we have not seen anything, and we say that this noise, or like simple things, sometimes we make children feel fear of the police. For the smaller children, it is usually said, police pakad ke le jayega. Right. And that kind of thing, when we are telling our children, they feel they will never trust the police people, though they are there to protect them. And they are, it is not that they are not doing their own job. They are doing wonderful job also by protecting us. So, but this negative enforcement is there, that if you are doing something wrong, this will happen to you. So with this, I am ending towards what my thoughts were there. Thank you so much.
I would like to close this panel with a short vote of thanks for all my panelists and the speakers, starting with Burrett sir. Burrett sir, thank you so very much. As always, you set the ball rolling. You mentioned the 6 causes of fear, and like the real courage is to accept that one is afraid, and still that person moves on. So thank you as always, sir. Achin, a very, very big thank you to you for your wonderful deliberations. As Burrett sir mentioned, you're always brilliant. And like you mentioned, like the real courage is to, the only way to deal with fear is to accept that one is afraid and face it. So, and how do you, motivate our children to get out of the fear? Thank you so much for that, Achin. Shilpa, Jejurkar ma'am, thank you so much for your wonderful deliberations. You mentioned about the fear of being alone, peer pressure, societal pressures, and principal ki Pathshala. Wonderful deliberations, ma'am. Thank you so much. Moupali Mittra ma'am, parents counseling and asking parents not to panic. I think that should be the code word. Parents start their panicking. I think children get afraid more. So thank you for your inputs, ma'am. Very, very helpful inputs. Rupmala Singh ma'am, a very different inputs. Like as you mentioned, you like on a broader perspective, you mentioned about how kids are trying to emulate the socially acceptable things, like what the thing is acceptable, and staying awake in the midnight. I think it is the in thing. Like I stayed up to I read up to 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. So that's what they discuss. Okay, how long can we keep awake? And then doesn't matter if next day we yawn in the class. So that's the thing. Dr. Geeta, Shukla, ma'am, thank you so much for your inputs, ma'am. Respecting each other's fears and very helpful inputs. Thank you so much. This was a very, very insightful discussion, and all my thanks to all my panelists once again. I'm sure the audience has gained a lot. Thank you so much. Closing the session, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Agori. Thank you, Achin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Notebook, for
Thank you,
all
everyone.
the
Thank you so much.
Thank you.